CIA Director John Ratcliffe said Tuesday that no classified information was included in texts about U.S. war plans that were sent to a journalist. According to Associated Press, the National Security Council said it is looking into how a journalist's number was added to the chain in the Signal group chat, which included information about U.S. plans to strike Yemen. In addition to Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth and Ratcliffe, it included Vice President JD Vance, Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Tulsi Gabbard, Trump's Director of National Intelligence. Democrats have said the leaked military plans show a sloppy disregard for security, but Ratcliffe said no rules were violated. My communications, to be clear, in the Signal message group were entirely permissible and lawful and did not include classified information, Ratcliffe told lawmakers during a Senate hearing on global security threats. During heated questions from Senator Mark Warner, Democrat Virginia, Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard said there's a difference between inadvertent releases of information and intentional leaks. There was no classified material that was shared, Gabbard said.
I'm going to go back to what I addressed at the outset. I mean, this was not only sloppy, it not only violated all procedures, but if this information had gotten out, American lives could have been lost. The Houthis had this information, could reposition their defensive systems. So I want to get a little more information about this. Director Gabbard, did you participate in the group chat with Secretary of Defense and other Trump senior officials discussing the Yemen war plans?
Senator, I don't want to get into the specifics.
Ma'am, were you on? You're not going to be willing to address. So you're not, are you denying? Matt, will you answer my question, ma'am? You were not TG on this group chat?
I'm not going to get into the specifics.
So you refuse to acknowledge whether you were on this group chat?
Senator, I'm not going to get into the specifics.
Why are you going to get into the specifics? Is it because it's all classified?
Because this is currently under review by the National Security Council.
Because it's all classified? If it's not classified, share the text now.
As the White House previously stated,
is it classified or non-classified information on this text?
I can confirm.
Director Ratcliffe, were you on the group chat?
Senator, I was on a Signal messaging group.
So you were the John Ratcliffe on that chat?
I was.
Thank you. Thank you.
Can I provide some context, Senator, to that?
Yes, but I've got a series of questions.
Well, but I think it's important because at the outset you made a couple of comments about Signal messaging using encrypted apps. So that we're clear, one of the first things that happened when I was confirmed as CIA director was Signal was loaded onto my computer at the CIA, as it is for most CIA officers. One of the things that I was briefed on very early, Senator, was by the CIA records management folks about the use of Signal as a permissible work use. It is. That is a practice that preceded the current administration to the Biden administration.
Director Ratcliffe, I've got a series of questions. If you're making the statement, the statement, the Signal is a secure channel.
No, can I answer that? It is.
I've got a series of
encryption. So to finish,
I understand encryption.
It is permissible to use to communicate and coordinate for work purposes, provided, Senator, that any decisions that are made are also recorded through formal channels. Right. So those were procedures that were implemented. My staff implemented those processes, followed those processes, complied with those processes, and finally, just please, so my communications, to be clear, in a Signal message group were entirely permissible and lawful and did not include classified information.
Well, we will make that determination, because if it's not classified, share the text with the committee. You know, let me go on. Director Gabbard, you are the security executive and set access guidelines for classified information. Did you contact the defense secretary or others after this specific military planning was put out and say, hey, we should be doing this in a skiff?
There was no classified material that was shared in that.
So then if there was no classified material, share it with the committee. You can't have it both ways. These are important jobs. This is our national security.
Trump administration officials mistakenly disclosed war plans in a messaging group that included a journalist shortly before the U.S. attacked Yemen's Iran-aligned Houthis. The Atlantic magazine's Jeffrey Goldberg reported that he had been added to a signal message group which apparently included Vice President JD Vance and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. He said he had seen classified military plans for U.S. strikes on Houthi rebels, including weapons packages, targets and timing, 2 hours before the bomb struck. The report sparked a firestorm of criticism from opposition Democrats and concerns among several Republicans. The world found out shortly before 2 p.m. Eastern Time on March 15 that the United States was bombing Houthi targets across Yemen. I, however, knew 2 hours before the first bombs exploded that the attack might be coming. The reason I knew this is that Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, had texted me the war plan at 11:44 a.m. The plan included precise information about weapons packages, targets, and timing, Jeffrey Goldberg said. His report omitted the details, but Goldberg termed it a shockingly reckless use of a signal chat. Accounts that appeared to represent Vice President JD Vance, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, CIA Director John Ratcliffe, Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles, and senior National Security Council officials were assembled in the chat group, Goldberg wrote. Joe Kent, Trump's nominee for National Counterterrorism Center Director, was apparently on the signal chain despite not yet being Senate-confirmed. National Security Council spokesperson Brian Hughes said the chat group appeared to be authentic. The Defense Secretary also defended the military operation discussed in the chat, citing its success. When pressed by reporters, Hegseth criticized Goldberg as a deceitful and highly discredited journalist and resisted questions about the content of the messages. House of Representatives Speaker Mike Johnson, a Republican, said the breach had been a mistake, but argued that the chat showed top-level officials doing their job, doing it well. Democratic lawmakers demanded an investigation, casting the episode as a national security scandal. This is one of the most stunning breaches of military intelligence that I have read about in a very, very long time, Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer said. U.S. President Donald Trump launched an ongoing campaign of large-scale military strikes against Yemen's Houthis on March 15 over the group's attacks against Red Sea shipping, and he warned Iran, the Houthis' main backer, that it needed to immediately halt support for the group.